from Michiana, this is ABC 57 News with breaking news.
ABC 57 following the tragic breaking news on that deadly crash that killed Indiana 2nd District Congresswoman Jackie Walorski and 3 others today.
It happened around 12:30 near State Road 19 and State Road 119. This is north of Napanee. This map shows you exactly where it happened. Here's some footage from the scene, which just started clearing around 4:15. More than 4 hours after the crash happened. The other 2 victims in the car, Zachary Potts, 27, of Mishawaka, Indiana. He was also the director at Jackie Walorski's office and worked with the St. Joseph County Republican Party. And Emma Thompson, her press secretary, just 28 years old, of Washington, D.C. The sole occupant of the other vehicle in the crash, Edith Schmucker, 56 years old, of Napanee, Indiana, was also pronounced dead at the scene.
And it is just an absolutely devastating loss for the state of Indiana and for people here in Michiana. And there's been an outpouring of condolences, support, and kind words for Congresswoman Jackie Walorski after her devastating passing today. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb sending his condolences in the wake of this deadly accident. In a statement tonight, the governor saying, quote, "Janet and I are devastated by the tragic loss of our friend, Congresswoman Jackie Walorski, and her 2 staffers, Emma Thompson and Zach Potts, earlier today. Our broken hearts go out to her husband, Dean, and the entire family during this time of unimaginable mourning."
He also writes, at every level of public service, Jackie was known to be a positive force of nature, a patriot, and a relentless policymaker with an unwavering loyalty to her constituents. Jackie's record of achievement is impossible to quantify, unquote. Now, the governor went on to say that Jackie Walorski will be remembered as a fighter, something we keep hearing, with a huge heart that always went the extra mile. And he's also directing all flags be flown at half-staff until her burial, obviously in her honor.
Yeah, we have not heard any information on funeral services or anything like that. Way too early for that to start just yet. But we are looking back on the lives and legacies of Congresswoman Walorski and the other victims killed. 2 of the people in the car crash at the time were her colleagues. Zachary Potts, an IU Bloomington grad. He was Congresswoman Walorski's district director here in Michiana. He was also her campaign manager back in 2018, and he was the head of the St. Joseph County Republican Party. Only 27 years old and a rising political figure here in Michiana. Zach Potts also lost, as well as Emma Thompson. She worked for the Congresswoman's office as her communications director. We dealt with her directly on many occasions. Always a pleasure to deal with, and she was only 28 years old.
Simply horrific, Brian. And Jackie Walorski is a lifelong Hoosier, born and raised in South Bend. Jackie and her husband, Dean, previously spent 4 years as missionaries in
Romania. Yeah,
Romania.
They were in Romania. She has family roots in Romania. They started a foundation to provide food and medical supplies to poor children there. Jackie also worked as a television news reporter here in South Bend before she started her political career, and as a director of development for colleges and universities in the area. Jackie was raised with the Hoosier values of hard work, determination, and public service, and brought those values into Indiana's 2nd District as a congresswoman.
But Congresswoman Walorski is most recognized for her time in Washington, of course. Jackie started her political career in the Hoosier State, spending 3 terms in the Indiana State House, where she became assistant floor leader and worked with then Governor Mitch Daniels to restore fiscal responsibility, reform taxes and health care, and promote economic growth in Indiana.
A member of the Republican Party, she was a member of the Indiana House of Representatives, representing the 21st District here in Michiana for about 5 years, 2005 to 2010, and then spent the past 9 years representing Michiana and the rest of Indiana's 2nd District down in Washington. She served on the incredibly powerful House Ways and Means Committee and as the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Worker and Family Support. She often focused on helping small businesses and manufacturers grow, especially the RV business in Elkhart County. She wanted to expand opportunities for American workers to help them succeed and empower individuals and families to thrive on their own. She also served as the ranking member of the House Ethics Committee in Washington, working to hold members of the House to the highest standards of transparency, accountability, and ethical conduct, according to her website.
And Brian, she previously served on the House Armed Services Committee, the House Veterans Affairs Committee, the House Budget Committee, 113th Congress, and the House Agriculture Committee, where she chaired the Nutrition Subcommittee. I mean, the list goes on of her public servitude. I mean, she was a dedicated and passionate woman. The Congresswoman was also a lifelong pro-life advocate, forging policy solutions to protect the unborn in the post-Roe v. Wade era.
Walorski didn't hold back on her excitement the day the verdict came down this year from the U.S. Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade. And we were able to talk to her on that very day. And here is what Congresswoman Jackie Walorski had to say about the end of Roe versus Wade.
And we're going to see in our day, the unborn are going to live. What's going to happen from this moment on? And they deserve the American dream.
Earlier this spring, Congresswoman Walorski introduced H.R. 6702. The Safeguarding Women's and Children's Health Act of 2022 to require more accurate reporting of abortion drug prescribing and related adverse side effects and events.
In a statement the Congresswoman shared in June, she said, quote, "Women who take abortion pills are ending up in emergency rooms or worse due to dangerous side effects. To safeguard women's lives, I am fighting to strengthen transparency at the FDA and ensure that Americans have clear access to the truth," unquote.
And just yesterday, Jackie was visiting Bella Vita Pregnancy Center in Knox to catch up with its founder and pro-life leader, Becky Bailey. She uploaded these pictures to her Facebook just yesterday of her visiting the pregnancy center where she was working to push forward the pro-life fight in the Hoosier State.
She was also working to address the national opioid crisis, still hitting hard here in Michiana. She was on her way to an anti-opioid abuse event today when that accident happened, we are told. She was with her staffers doing what congresspeople and elected officials do every day, going about constituent services, when tragedy suddenly struck at 12:30 this afternoon.
And the Hoosier Congresswoman spoke about the importance of funding a response to the opioid crisis and uplifting the families impacted by it. She questioned HHS Secretary on the Biden budget.
Now more than ever, we must make wise decisions to address challenges Americans are facing in Indiana, in my district, and across the country. From combating the opioid crisis to uplifting families. Like many Americans, I have serious concerns about this administration's failures when it comes to all of these major crises.
Walorski also helped pass bipartisan legislation named after Michiana Dr. Todd Graham after he was killed by a patient for not prescribing a patient opioids. The legislation helps improve access to other non-addictive pain treatments.
Congresswoman Fred Upton, another Republican who represents Michigan's 6th district covering Berrien County, tells us he is heartbroken to hear of this tragedy. And he says the two were very close and often spent time together traveling to and from D.C.
It's going to be lonely going back to D.C. maybe next week, walking through the South Bend airport and not seeing her there.
You can see the emotion all over his face, losing a friend. And Indiana Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch also remembers Walorski fondly. Take a listen at what she had to say. We spoke to her live earlier.
Jackie was the type of person that you always knew where you stood. She was very outspoken, but she had a heart that was big as Indiana. And her caring and compassion for Hoosiers in the bills that she supported for women and for children and families really spoke to her conservative Hoosier caring values.
She did care an awful lot. You may not have agreed with Congresswoman Jackie Walorski on every political position she took, but you couldn't argue with her passion and her dedication to the people of this district here in Northwest Indiana. We'll be right back with more on the loss of Congresswoman Jackie Walorski